Kano. Lagos. I don't know, so we are still expecting how many people more? Expecting four more people. Yeah. Oh, I don't know you are. Yeah, recording is in progress. Okay. Let me see how many people here. Participant, we have 3 participants for now. We have LSA conference host. Hello, can anybody hear me? Yeah, computer audio. Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, you are welcome to our session. Yes, this. Let me minimize this. You check the value the quality. We have a lady among us. I'm trying to recollect. Yes. Can you hear me clearly?
No,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Okay, I'm trying to get, let me get this. We're only waiting for Dunaidu. He said he's going to join us in a moment. This. I'm just trying to tell them to. I'm not speaking up. Hello. Hello. Can you speak up? Can you hear us? Can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I'm trying to scroll to on the program. We collect the names of everybody in this panel. Okay, 33. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone, once again.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, and you are welcome to this session 2G, which is African Comparative Urbanity, Lagos and Kano in Perspective. We have 4 presenters. I am the chair and organizer of this particular session. We also have with me Obadoba and Leke Oduwaye of the University of Lagos. We also have Dr. Muhammad Wada from Bayero University and Dr. Junaid Danladi, who will also be presenting. From the last, what's it called, that was shared. Hello? There's my audio again. From the last program, we have 12 minutes, right, for each presentation, and then some 30 minutes for discussions. Okay. So I don't know. Should I go ahead with mine from the list? My name is in the first, and the title of my paper is Lagos of Two Adams: The Significance of Lagos in the Career of Sheikh Adam Abdullahi Ali-Lori. Let me see if I can share my slide. It's been a while I did okay, please slide display setting. Can anyone recall this? Okay, yeah, I've seen it. Share screen. Okay, somebody's already sharing this thing. Or will you rather go first?
Yes, I think let us start first, since we have already shared.
Okay. All right. Can you start your presentation? This is sorry that I'm finding out getting your name. Obadoba by Joyce. By Miss Joyce. I think she's the one sitting, right? Miss Joyce, she's there physically. I don't know whether she's joining us virtually or she's there physically. Miss Joyce. Hello?
Like she's not hearing you.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Or rather, you talk to the other participant.
Can you hear me in Lagos?
Okay. Yes. Presenting is presenting. The other presenters.
Can you hear me?
They are not.
Hello?
The generator is like, is it not that?
He said it's going to walk over there or something of that nature. Okay, let me send a message. Okay. Hi.
I don't know.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you, sir.
Okay. I'm asking Ms. Joy that she can start her presentation. She already has a PowerPoint on the screen. Whether she would like to go first. I wanted to share mine, but the screen was telling me that there's already a PowerPoint. I can't hear you.
It says pick up. So you want them to start first. So you can start yours first.
You want to start first?
Yes,
You have. I saw you had.
she's not. She said she's not ready yet, so maybe you can start.
Okay, I can start. Let me share my screen.
Yes, yes, you can. She's not sure.
I know you not. Let me see. No, this is the screen I want to share. Okay. Yeah, I'm sharing the screen. Okay. Can you see it now? Can you see it now?
Yeah,
I'm sharing my screen.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Let me start. The title of my paper is Lagos of Two Adams. The significance of Lagos in the career of Sheikh Adam Abdullahi Ali Lori. Let me start with the introduction. Sorry, in the hurry to finish my PowerPoint, I only put just part of the title on the screen. So let me start here. Itinerancy is synonymous with Islamic scholarship and urban centers have always attracted Muslim scholars. Since the colonial period, Lagos has been the most important economic city in Nigeria and as such attracts Muslim scholars from traditional centers of Islam such as Ilorin and Kano. So these scholars sometimes serve as advisors to rulers, scribes, or civil servants and teachers of children of rulers. Apart from being the first colonized part of Nigeria that was colonized by the British in 1861, the location of Lagos gives her this city its cosmopolitan ambience and economic preeminence among other cities of the country. So I'll give a background of the history of Islam in Lagos. Like most part of Yoruba region of southwestern Nigeria, Islam came later than, say, for example, the Hausa regions of Nigeria. And the earliest Muslims in Lagos were Hausa slaves who practiced their religion in the closet. Then by the 18th century, Islam began to gain some prominence. And like other Yoruba towns, the palace was an enabler of religion. For example, Obadele of Lagos in 1775 to 1832 and 1832 to 1834 encouraged Muslims in Lagos and was partly deposed on the account of his accommodation of Muslims. So until the early part of the 19th century, Islam was a minority religion in the city. But with time, more people began to accept Islam, and by the time of Oba Akitoye, Islam had gained some considerable influence, and the king granted Muslims some freedom to practice their religion. The spread of the religion was largely through itinerant Muslim traders who also doubled as scholars. So when the British attacked Lagos in 1851 and Oba Kosoko fled to Epe, many of his Muslim followers followed him to Epe, and that strengthened the presence of Islam in Epe. All the while, Islam continued to grow gradually in Lagos, and this was further accelerated with the coming of Muslim immigrants or immigrants from Brazil, who are known as Agoda, as well as Sierra Leonean Muslims, who are known as Saros. So these returning slaves formed part of the people that encouraged and influenced the spread of Islam in Lagos. So I'll give the biography of the two scholars that I want to show the importance of Lagos in their connection and career. And the first of the two scholars is Sheikh Adam Abdullahi Ali Lori. He was born in Wassa in Benin Republic to a princess of Wassa and Sheikh Abdullahi, an itinerant scholar from Ilorin. So as somebody born into a scholarly family, he studied with his father as well as other Muslim scholars. both in Ilorin, but he studied mostly outside of Ilorin. And he also had a cosmopolitan experience of acquisition of knowledge, because he studied in Nigeria as well as in the Sudan and Egypt. Now, the greater contact between the Muslim world and West Africa pulled him in traveling in pursuit of knowledge to the Arab world, and which he undertook this journey of knowledge seeking in 1946 and 1951, respectively. In Sudan, Egypt, and the Hijaz, that's the Saudi Arabia, his experience and contacts with prominent Muslim scholars laid the foundation in his mind of the reforms and activities he will carry out later in life as an educationist and as a pan-Islamic activist. When he returned from his first journey from 1946, he worked briefly for Ansarudin's Society in Lagos. He however left the work and then established his own school, which he called Markaz Ta'alim al-Arabi al-Islami in Abeokuta in 1952. And we look at the second scholar, who is Sheikh Adamu Namaji, who was born in 1903. Sorry, I forgot to include the year he passed away. He was born in Al-Findiki quarters of Kano City on the 9th of April 1903. A few days after Emir Abbas became the Emir of Kano. He had an uncle who provided for his training with many scholars in Kano. He studied Tasawwuf, that is Muslim or Islamic esotericism, with many scholars, and spent his youth in search of knowledge. After completing his studies, he dedicated his life to teaching as well as spiritual guidance. He was not just a scholar, but he was also engaged in commercial activities. He ran a chemist shop in his quarters, where prophetic medicines and perfumes were sold. He also part of his habit to travel to Lagos for training, especially in Kola North, and he could spend up to half a year before returning to Kano. In the course of carrying out his trading activities, he never shied away from his vocation, which was that of a teacher of Islamic sciences. So now what I really want to talk about in this paper is the Lagos and the meeting of these scholars and the significance of this meeting, particularly for Sheikh Al-Iluri. And like I said earlier, although Sheikh Al-Iluri began his career in Abeokuta, he had always been going to Lagos, like many scholars, to preach and to study. You know, Lagos has a certain attractions for scholars, whether they are just cutting their teeth or they are well-established scholars. Even though Islam has strong presence in Lagos by the early 20th century, Lagos was not known as a center of Islamic scholarship, nor was it a Muslim polity like Ilorin, where Al-Ilori came from, or Kano, where Sheikh Mahdi came from. The leadership of these two cities was based on the legitimacy of Islam. So Lagos is more known as a center of commerce. In one of his going to Lagos, Sheikh Adam Al-Ilori met Sheikh Adamu Namaji, the Kano scholar. So Namaji introduced him to a number of classical Islamic sciences, such as rhetoric, logic, which they call mantiq in Arabic, usul al-fiqh, that is science of jurisprudence, philosophy, astronomy, and history. This influence of the things Sheikh Al-Iluri learned from Adam will resonate in the career of Sheikh Adam as an educationist, a missionary, as well as a historian. Sheikh Namaji also introduced Sheikh Adam to the Qadiriya Sufi order. So we look at Namaji's influence on Al-Iluri. Sheikh Al-Iluri, I argue, is the greater beneficiary of the meeting of the two scholars, as a scholar learning from Namaji. The lessons he took from Namaji was influential and reflected in his career as an educationist, a preacher, as a Sufi, and as a historian. Sheikh Al-Luri was inspired in his travels in Sudan and Egypt to reform Islamic education among the Yoruba-speaking people. He has seen such efforts in the work of Sheikh Kamaluddin Muhammad Al-Adabi in Ilorin as well as in Lagos, as well as Muslim organizations such as the Ansaruddin Society. In his educational reforms, he formalized Islamic education on Middle Eastern model with influence with modern education as well, such as establishing purpose-built school with classrooms, specific classes for different levels of learning, among other things. The wearing of school uniforms makes it look as an alternative to the Western education, which had relegated Islamic knowledge to the background. So among the subjects which Sheikh Al-Luri taught in his school, which he taught his students rhetoric, which is called Balaga in Arabic, was including Mantiq, which is logic, Usul al-Fiqh, that's the science of jurisprudence, which is very important for Muslims, as well as philosophy, which the Muslims call falsafa, as well as astronomy, ilm al-falak, history, and geography. And most of these can be recognized as ancillary subjects to religious subjects. A great deal of this he learned from Sheikh Namaji in their meeting in Lagos. By the way, Sheikh Adam Al-Luri is suffix of his name, Al-Luri, was given to him by Sheikh Namaji because Namaji had two students who share the same name. Their namesake Adam. So to distinguish his students, Adam Al-Luri, who comes from Ilorin, he now gave the cognomen Al-Luri, and that's how the name stuck with him. And Sheikh Al-Luri continued to use that name throughout his life, Sheikh Adam Abdullahi Al-Luri. Sheikh Namaji was very much interested in history and had written one himself. And Sheikh Al-Luri was influenced by his teacher's predilection toward history, as could be seen in Sheikh Al-Luri's investment in writing history. Three outstanding works of his historical writings are Islam in Nigeria wa Usman bin Fodio. That is History of Islam in Nigeria and Usman Fodio. This is a work of history on the history of Islam from the beginning and the influence of Sheikh Usman bin Fodio on the development of Islam in Nigeria. A second work is Lamahat Baluri fi Mashahid Ulama Ilurin. It's an outstanding work on the history of Ulama of Ilorin. And in this work, it classified the scholars into generations of about 3 generations. The early generations who founded the town, the early scholars, and established Islam in the learning. The second generation, those trained by them, as well as the modern generation. Sheikh Al-Luri himself belonged to this third class category. The other work which he also wrote is Aslu Kobail Yoruba. This one, in this historical work, he tried to trace the origin of the Yoruba race. This is what he explored in this particular work. The sophistic influence. Sheikh Adam was initiated into the Qadiriya Sufi order by his teacher Namaji. Unlike the Tijaniya, particularly the Ibrahimiya Kaulaki of Ibrahim Yas, which democratized esoteric knowledge, the Qadiriya were not expressively open like the Tijanis. So, and this shows the kind of educational reform which Sheikh Al-Luri was championing. That means he could practice Sufi rituals privately while helping to democratize the esoteric knowledge, the exoteric knowledge of Islam, Exoteric knowledge, which are largely rational, suits democratization more than esoteric knowledge, which can be analogical most of the time. This Sufi side of Al-Luri is just not often spoken of in works about it because it was not something that was expressly open, unlike his work as an educationist teacher of Islamic knowledge. By way of conclusion, I argue that although Lagos was not a traditional center of Islamic knowledge, it nevertheless has considerable Muslim population that grew exponentially in the course of the colonial history of Lagos. Known more as economic capital of Nigeria, Lagos attracted Islamic scholars who came as missionaries, teachers, students as well as spiritual consultants. Not a Muslim polity, it enables scholars to cut their teeth. Here, because Lagos is not a traditional Muslim center, any scholars can easily come and fit in without having to subject himself to some cultural, hierarchical authority. So it enabled a lot of Muslim scholars to move to Lagos. And because most of the people in Lagos are busy with their economic pursuits, they serve as spiritual consultants for them. Thus, Lagos, as a city, an economic center, played an important platform that enabled the meeting of the two scholars from two known centers of Islamic education, that is Kano and Ilorin. Namaji was a trader who was coming and going to Lagos, the same thing Aliluri, and the two of them were able to then. So Namaji taught Aliluri, and Aliluri will go on to establish his famous school in Lagos, Markaz Ta'alim Arabi Al-Islami in Agege. Now, you can see from my previous submission that the lessons or the courses he took with Namaji were among the key courses like geography, history, astronomy, tasawwuf, and other things were some of the subjects that Sheikh Aliluri introduced in this school. And that makes, when he established his school in Lagos, it became a center of knowledge where people from all over Yoruba land will go to Lagos to go and acquire this Islamic knowledge. Even from West African sub-region where you have Yoruba speakers like Benin, Cotonou, and as far as Ghana, people will go to Lagos to Agege to acquire this modern Islamic education as Sheikh Aliluri has established, which he did, and as a counter to the domineering of Western education among Muslims. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, that's my paper. I don't know who's going for this. Who's ready for? I don't know, Dr. Wada. Are you ready for a presentation?
No, let the second person start do her own. Let it follow order because.
Will Madam Joyce, will you go for yours now? Are you ready?
All right.
Good. We'll go to listen to your words. I don't know. Nobody was keeping time. Well, I don't know whether I took more than my share of time.
You took time.
I took time. Okay, good. Please, we need somebody to work the time for us.
What time do you normally allocate to each?
I think it was supposed to be 12 or 15 minutes, right?
Okay. If it is 15 minutes, then you haven't enough.
All right. Madam Joyce.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
Can you hear me online? No.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So I'm presenting on understanding residential cost in Lagos, situated social inequality. Just a brief background. I will be doing something different because I know a lot of us are from the history and the literature discipline. So I'm from the urban studies, urban planning. I work with the Federal Polytechnic, UDA. I'm currently a PhD student at the University of Lagos. So you're going to see a mix of literature with my work because I try to blend the urban area with literature and history. So just a piece of background. So understanding residential cost in Lagos, situated social inequality. I argue that there are different levels of income in Lagos, and currently the Lagos population is estimated to be around 15 million. That's according to macro trends. We really don't have the population statistics for Nigeria because the census are not conducted as it should. And so based on the conversation by the World Bank, the UN, and several online population statistics, currently Lagos is estimated to be 15.9 million, which also makes it a mega city. And also at a growing rate of 5.8 annual growth rate. So this is quite much, for urbanization, this is a significant figure. The current population is about 4.2 million and multidimensionally poor. So when you go online, the first thing you type in Google and you want to type Lagos, you see image like this as it is on the screen. And so that tells you the kind of idea and perception over history of what Lagos is envisioned to look like. But when we look at residential environment and the cost that which people pay, currently getting a house in Ikoyi or Victoria Island will cost you around 300,000 US dollars or 150 million per annum. And so for people in the global south, in the global north, $300,000 per annum is translated to be about roughly $300 per month, $3,000 per month. I mean, so this figure will tell you like that's for a high income earner, but in a global north, that figure is not really much of a significant amount because people pay more than that on a monthly basis for housing. And then so Lagos currently under the PPP housing delivery model are also planning for affordable housing, which ranges from between 8 million to 23 million, depending on the location of those houses. And so history over time makes us feel like housing has become so expensive, but when we compare to the global north, the differences in the prices based on the minimum wage and the value of the economy are quite different. So I just need to bring this to notice. And then so I continue by saying that the situated inequality refers to unequal distribution of resources, opportunities, and power that is shaped by specific social, economic, and political context. So we don't have the same opportunity everywhere. Our history is judged by the situation. Our history is judged by the very city that we live in. And so I was inspired by this work, first of all, because I come from an environment where there was so much for housing and I paid not so much. And then coming to Lagos, I occupied a very small space. And the first thing that came to my mind is how can an individual live in such a small space? Then I read the works of Zhao in 2021, where he talked about the transport system in Lagos and then the situated inequality in the transport system in Lagos. And that blew my mind because he talked about the transportation from a positive perspective. And so this were the foundation that shaped my thoughts and ideas. Situated social inequality also takes into account the ways in which social structures and institutions interact with individuals, their experiences, and the behavior to produce unequal outcomes. So the outcomes in the society are not always the same. And this is shaped by the various institutions and the individuals that are interacting daily. So in my situation, it is often studied in relation to specific geographic location. So in this location, I chose Yaba in Lagos so that I can understand it from the micro perspective or macro level of the city. So tracing it from history, we look at the various theories. You have the capitalist system and the socialist theory system. I'm not going to dwell on the social system, even though I'm talking on social, because I will just explain it. And so capitalism thrives more on private property, self-interest, and then the competition and the market system. So when you look at the competition and market system, I argue that because it is determined by price in a decentralized manner for buyers and sellers, so the prices in return allocate. So interest is based, but in Lagos, there is no competition. Rather, it's more of self-interest. There is more of private property in claim. And then the freedom to choose with respect to consumption, production, and is not also the same in the capitalist economy. So based on the population in Lagos, the freedom to choose is not even given in the first place. And therefore, a lot of people have no option than to take what is available in the market. They don't have the freedom to choose. It is just what you see that is accepted. But then when you look at it from the social perspective talk about the people, the influences, and how they align with the government. So government provide for the people in terms of social theories. However, in situated reality, I'm trying to narrow this down to what many of us will understand in the works of Chinua Achebe. So for him, home is where the heart is. And now not only grow, but also the people that influence them. And so he recorded that it is true that the child belongs to his father, but when a child beats his child, it seeks sympathy in the mother's heart. This is the situation. So I'm basing my work on his works that can easily be understood from the perception and the perspective of how people have lived over time and what we conceive as a good home, bad home, affordable home, or low-income earners home. And so I argue that the global policies, there are several global policies on rents and housing, and also the African policies. The global policy, international policies, the Universal Declaration for Human Rights argue for affordable housing. The SDGs, Goal 9 and 11, affirm the importance of the right to housing. So housing is really important, but what price do people pay? That's what I seek to ask. Why do we have to pay so much if this is a global policy, if it is an African policy, it is recorded in the African Charter on Human Population Rights. Even the Nigerian housing policy recognizes the right to adequate housing. In quotes, the law says there should be housing for all, regardless of the income, the level of the people. So where do people live? If you look at the picture, people generally want to live in fine cities, right? So you want to live in Abuja, a lot of people live in Amsterdam, a lot of people live in other places like Ibadan. And then you have the brown roofs, the red roofs, and the fine design, the expanded planned city. But then in essence, when you look at where we live now, you will see that there is a form of distortion, the picture by the right-hand down corner, and you see a mix of rich and poor dwelling together. And that is the way cities have been. So before colonization, Nigeria was like this. This is the Asian Benin Kingdom in the 16th century, and this is Lagos footprint before the colonial era. And so this is a market. So the city design of what it looks like from images from Google and the National Library, just to contextualize what we actually call fanciful and affordable houses. And then, so I view that this is the current Lagos, and this is Yaba, where I'm talking about, to provide a subtle expression of the appealing complexity of the situational inequality, and that by conducting a microsociological study in the public residential houses through an ethnographic study in the urban neighborhood. So the housing studies have looked at it from various perspectives and understood that mixed income housing, the proposed bill by the Henrik Bull, and then there is a special variation on land use, and then social economic factors on rental value and determinants. However, all those policies have not considered the real situation on the ground. Rather, they were policies that talked about mixed income, having rich and poor together. And so when you look at the affordable housing that's been designed by Lagos State, it is so expensive that it costs as much as 17 million. So the low income earner, what we call the low income earner, maybe possibly those working in federal government agencies, will hardly even have the capacity to buy such houses. This is just a brief background of where Lagos is located. For those who don't know where Lagos is in Nigeria, and then just occupy a very small portion, the smallest land area in the entire country. And so at micro level, increasing inequality is the distribution of wealth, but at micro situation, it is managed by the very poor itself. And so I argue that the lived situation in Lagos is quite different from what the mixed theorists, urban theorists have said. Rather, it aligns with what Chinua Achebe has said in his work. Home is where your heart is. So when you have a home, people pay so much in these rented apartments in Lagos. And so I took a picture because I lived with these people for a particular period of time. And this is what is paid for small spaces like this. So you have a family who is paying 700,000 to 1 million per annum. That's for a bed self-contained mini flat, just as the space is. If you convert it to euros, that will give you about 1,400 euros to about 2,400 euros, just a range So this is what people will pay between the global north and the global south. And this is for them a monthly payment, but this is what an apartment will cost for in Lagos for per annum. So actually it's quite cheaper. And then, or you can pay 150 to 400,000 for a house as the images above. That's what it's going to look like. So question is, what is affordable? What is decent? What is beautiful? What do we mean by that? And then by the time we ask the questions, why people will choose to live in these places, many of our respondents argue that this is where they feel more comfortable with. For them, it is easier to live here, save money, and live and send their children to better school. For they don't feel that they are poor. We met a client, a respondent, and he said, I have 2 of my children in the United States of America, and I don't feel that I am poor because I've been able to train my children to the highest level of education that they can attain. If I had lived in Ikoyi, I would spend all my money on accommodation. So I chose to live here. So we understand that they don't live there necessarily because they are poor or because they cannot afford, but that is the situation they found themselves in, and they have to make the best choice that suits the family. So far we found that there is a situational inequality with implications to rent for a sense of place. People feel attached to a sense of place, and that was why Okonkwo in Things Fall Apart was able to move from his father's home when he felt it was no longer conducive for him to his mother's home because he felt a sense of place. Privilege. So they consider housing as interesting, but also it's a state of survival. And so people argue that if you can survive in Lagos, you can survive in any part of the world. And according to Vanessa Watson, she said that the poor only the poor knows how to live best in poverty. And so in conclusion, I conclude that inclusivity and sustainability is easier addressed by and with the very poor rather than through elaborate designs. And so it concludes that nothing has reality unless it is manifested in a situation some way. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for your presentation. I think it has been brought to my attention that we are supposed to speak for just 12 minutes each, and I think probably I spent more than that myself. I didn't watch the time, and she has probably done better than me. So, and I should have said the rules from the beginning. But since the 2 of us have presented without any discussions, I've seen some questions online from Professor Tijani. So I think we should conclude all the presentations and the questions we have. We will now discuss it one by one after the presentation. So, Dr. Wada, are you ready?
Let's
Dr. Junaidu?
Because I'm the last person on the list.
Dr. Junaidu.
Okay.
Can you go?
Okay.
12 minutes. Try to keep to time. 12 minutes.
Yeah, let's say 23 Junaid. You will see my name. No. Yes. Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Up to that, we disconnect.